Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart and spiritual lifestyle curator Leo Rising Scott. And today, I've been watching a lot of Oprah. We're talking about a lot of things, including Jerry Falwell Jr., Jacob Blake, and
Yes.
surrendering to pleasure. It's a lot to get to in only 60 minutes of time, so buckle up and let's get started, people. Himeros Live is brought to you by Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv is an erotic website with hundreds of videos that will do more than make you come. They'll enhance your experience of sex and sexuality as you'll discover new and exciting ways to increase pleasure, build connections, and so much more. All of our videos are co-created with a team of gay sex experts to give you the best gay sex of your life. And for just a few more days, you can get 3 months of Himeros.tv for just $49.95 at Himeros.tv/special. That sale ends at the end of August. So do not delay. It's Himeros.tv/special. Himeros.tv, it's like porn, but better. How is everyone? Hey guys.
That timing.
The pregnant pause. It's
That's
like porn,
good.
That's good.
but better. It's just the right
Yeah.
amount of space.
It was smooth, man.
Yeah. And we've only got a few more days in August. This bitch is almost behind us.
August was so fast. August is not a bitch. Obey the goddess. Just kidding. Not.
I feel like we're going to be goofy today.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Despite having some like really heavy things to chat about.
I love our topics today. I think one of my teachers, her name is Heather, actually, and she is wonderful for me in this season of my life. And the thing I love most about working with Heather, and I think you underestimate the power of my projection skills with my voice, Davey. The thing I love most about working with Heather was I have a shyness around my own intimacy at times, depending. I'm so used to being pageant in a way, pageant and presentational. That was like my early life, so I know where to stick it. I know how to be. She's like, let that dissolve. Like, you're a disruptor. And so today's topics are exciting for me because that's the main issue with the conservative mentality. I don't want to just say the Republican Party. I want to say that not everyone who's conservative is Republican, or not everyone that's conservative agrees with everything that's over there. So I don't want to be too divisive. But I can't wait till we get to that topic, because when it comes to kink and intimacy and eroticism and personal androgynous zones and just all the good stuff that you guys are, this is great. Like, this is the best day ever for why this work is so important.
And you're referencing Jerry Falwell Jr.
Jerry Falwell Jr. and today's scene.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot to chat to, and we will get to it all. I do want to talk about Jacob Blake because I know that's on a lot of our minds. It feels like, in a lot of ways, deja vu. It's like, okay, like we're doing this again. And we're recording this Thursday afternoon. So there's still a lot of things that are probably still developing about the story. But what we do know is that Jacob Blake is a Black man from Milwaukee who was shot 7 times in his back in front of his children by police. He's in the hospital and he's currently paralyzed from the waist down. There's been a lot of protests as a result. And a white 17-year-old from out of state who posts Blue Lives Matter content and has posted pro-Trump stuff in his social media, even attended a Trump rally, shot and killed 2 protesters and injured a third. That 17-year-old has been charged with homicide. I'd like to get, I guess a good place to start is just kind of some general thoughts from you guys as you've been digesting all of this week. What's been coming up for you and what's been going through your minds on this?
I've been feeling kind of a helplessness about it. Just like put me in touch with this feeling of helplessness, and like it's like an anger that I'm trying to contact in myself more and like really feel the realness of the anger in me. Like I've lived a life that's insulated from a lot of I mean, I've had a lot of trauma in my life and early on in my life with my dad and men that beat me up. And we've talked before about how I was attacked early on. So I have like this like relationship with male violence. The other day I was standing in a grocery store line getting ice, and the checkout the guy that was like checking me out had like this like kind of fierce face, and I felt my body kind of contracting and pulling in, and just like noticing how I still have these reactions to like, what's he going to do to me right now? But feeling that kind of in my own body, and then not knowing like exactly how to be of service at this moment in time, but definitely feeling like a collective, tapping into more collective anger, but also like a helplessness. Like, I don't know, like it seems so big, like the problems are so big that I don't know where to start. It's like starting again and starting again and starting again. So that's me this week.
Yeah. It feels like a little bit like a merry-go-round.
Just like what the fuck? Yeah, like I have no idea. And a retaliation impulse in me too that wants to like truly like want harm to come to all the people that are like that like that I can be honest and admit that I feel that way about.
Leo Rising, I'm curious what has been coming up for you.
I've let myself be mad, and not new mad, but a present ember of flame that's always mad at this world. Mm-hmm. That if you are Black, queer, and an artist, you're just going to be mad. You understand that you're going to wake up most days to a world that doesn't value your life and that will attack you. And so it sucks to say that, because I have a lot of joy and I offer a lot of joy, and I even started this with levity. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, here's a reason for me to be mad. What am I going to do with it? I actually found in my personal life it really hard to look at the media that spent 2 days on Jacob's survival, and then the rest of the days on, well, here's the killer and here's how innocent he looks. Not killer, well, he did kill other people. I consider that attack a moment of, why aren't we calling it an assassination attempt? Why aren't we calling it a terrorist act? Because the person, like it's been said, and it's now fact, this young person who is underage, who cannot carry a weapon in the state they traveled to, went with intent and was met with assistance from the police force there. There's a militia that was met with assistance. There's video of corroboration, of comments of like, oh, I'm just very human actions from people that are supposed to not be that human during high levels of stress. Officers during high levels of stress are not supposed to be that mutable and fragile. They're supposed to be the heroes, supposed to be the protectors. Then they're like, well, you guys had it coming. And then you see the protesters, and they're like comic book nerds with skateboards, not to like be light, but it's like they're the most disarming people that you could ever see. We've had scarier, with quote fingers, protests. We've had scarier groups. This was not a scary group. So this was a terrorist attack. This was an assassination attempt. And anyone who doesn't call it that is obviously working on the other side of what's right and what's safe and what will bring the people of America together. So I know I'm upset. There's a Maya Angelou quote that I've just been clinging to and reading every time it like gets me. But more importantly, I'm really excited that Jacob's still alive and that there's updates on that. And I'm being really quiet, because when it's a young white youth, this country's media has a way of wanting us to just Care Bear stare at the person.
Right.
And that plays on an aspect of my compassion that my people are always asking for that we don't get. Right. So it's hard.
He's of course going to be portrayed as this like lone gunman vigilante, whereas if that was a Black Lives Matter protester, the entire movement would be painted
totally
with what he did.
Yeah.
I this week I was on Facebook, and I have a personal Facebook account with just like friends from high school and college and stuff, people that I'm not necessarily even that in touch with anymore. But I came to realize that I have a little bit of a superpower because I saw a high school friend's younger sister, so a little bit removed, share this like Blue Lives Matter like video rant. And it wasn't her speaking, but it was someone else, and she had shared it. And basically it was this like cop who had he was saying, you know, Jacob Blake is known to police. He's this bad guy with a record, and somehow that's like a justification for this shooting. Except obviously that's not how it works. Like arrests aren't supposed to end in murder, and like it doesn't. Who cares what he's done, right? Like we have a judicial system, albeit a fucked up judicial system, but police don't get to decide who lives and dies. So I saw this post, and this girl is married to a cop. I knew that much about her, and I don't think I've spoken to her in 20 years. And so I saw the post, and I just no longer scroll past stuff like that without saying something. So all I said was, girl, bye. And I unfriended her. And like, I don't want to work all day, like listen to the news and then sit down on my bed at night to see what's on Facebook and see this bullshit propaganda in my feed. Like, I don't want to see it. And I wanted to let her know before I unfriended her, like, hello, some people think that what you're sharing is really fucked up and offensive and wrong. Would you believe that she messaged me on Facebook Messenger, and she wrote this long rant? She was like, I'm really shocked. She left this long message, and she said how much credibility she gets from her gay friends that she knows me. And like how much she looks up to me. And I kind of had this aha moment, which is like, I'm from a very small town, and there are not a lot of people who have, I'm not trying to like flex here, but there's not a lot of people who have 1 million YouTube subscribers. So for her, I'm like the most famous person that she probably knows. So if I say something to her, it has this like extra weight.
Yeah.
And so when she went on this rant about how she was just trying to like stick up for herself by posting this, as someone, I guess, who's like the wife of a cop, she feels like she needs to defend herself, and that she doesn't want me to think that she's racist. So I realized, like, whatever I say next, she might actually listen to. Like, I might actually be in a position to say something to her. And so I told her, I said, look, and I think there's a part of me that's kind of like a sociopath that just like knows the right things to say to like to get people to get the reaction I want from people. Or and so I was like, look, like, you know, I've been making YouTube videos for 13 years and I have said a lot of stupid things. So I totally get what it's like to want to be defensive. But what I've also learned is that sometimes the people who are arguing with me have really good points, and that in moments of increased awareness, like, it's a good time to do a lot more listening. And when you post a video like what you post in your feed, it doesn't create room for listening. And even if she really believes somehow this shooting was justified, even if she believes that in her heart of hearts, like, it's not the time to be saying that on social media, because it's just completely misreading the moment. And you know, if she's not a racist, as she says, then it's time to use your platform to talk about systematic racism and reforms and how communities can work together. And she apologized, albeit it was a long apology, and she talked a lot about what she's gone through in the last 20 years and her experiences. And but like, she eventually got there, and she said she's sorry for posting it. So maybe she'll think twice. I don't know.
Did she friend you back?
Oh, I don't know if it even works like that. I didn't re-add her. I was like, I'm done. Like, I like, yeah. I mean, this is a woman who has a picture of herself with a Blue Lives Matter flag as her profile picture.
Yeah.
Like,
Jesus.
So, like, I just want to know where all the All Lives Matter people are, why they get so quiet whenever someone says Blue Lives Matter, but then they get all upset when someone says Black Lives Matter. Does that make sense?
Oh, really? The All Lives Matter people that I've witnessed had turned blue when they needed to turn blue. Like, they jump between the two of them.
Right. But when someone says like Black Lives Matter, they're like, no, all lives matter. But if you say Blue Lives Matter, they're not like, no, all lives matter. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just anyway.
Yeah.
It's not an anyway.
I can't. And that couple from St. Louis, by the way, I'll shut up in a second, but that couple who was outside their mansion with the guns.
Yeah.
They were speakers at the RNC this week. on day one of the RNC.
I know.
You know, the couple outside their
You're
fucking home.
Such stunt
Yeah.
queens. Like, how can you?
That's awesome.
Like, that's all they are. They're just stunt queens. Like, it's never anything grounded.
Right.
Like, I could totally exist on this in this world as it is, as someone in the closet, in just silent. I can exist as somebody who just wants their world to be their world. Like, I know I have those traits. I didn't grow up with those traits, but I understand my own psychology. It's like, if I wanted to just retreat and be over there, but I don't know if I could be over there and deal with the disillusion of politics and disillusion of leadership and straight up adulthood. They're not adults.
Like, let's connect the dots here. Like, if you're celebrating people like that wave their guns at protesters outside their mansion, you end up with people like a fucking 17-year-old that shows up with a gun and shoots people. Like, hello.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hello.
Who's gonna prove him?
What's that?
That's the new fact. The new fact leak is that he didn't drive himself. His mother drove him.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, I totally need that confirmed. Like, we need a fourth person to just like ping us when we're saying something not so. But I'm like, please tell me this boy's mother did not drive him. But also, if that's true, it's really important that we lose the rhetoric as a country and the laziness of excusing white parents when their children do these atrocities, who are like seemingly calm and collected. And I don't know where he got the gun, and I don't know where this happened. I mean, he plays video games. It's like, you know what you raised. You know how you talked at dinner, and you know the uncle he was around. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much. I mean, do y'all listen to Russell Brand's podcast by chance?
No.
Oh my God, I'm gonna send you this for later. We can maybe talk about another time. But Dia Khan, she's an African American woman. Yeah, I mean, she's a Muslim, and she spends an entire day with the leader of the KKK, with this relentless, like, why? I really want to understand where you're coming from. I really want to understand where you're coming from, and just like trying to like get underneath like people's neurosis, really. And like in this whole current climate, I guess like one thing the reason I said I felt like this kind of helplessness is because I'm like, I really want to address root issues and like what the fuck to do about like a country that's really torn up around so many things that it's like, you know, like where do you even start, you know, in trying to meet people where they are and to get a space to have meaningful dialogue. You know, it's like, I don't even know. Like this guy, for instance, like this 17-year-old kid, like the compassionate part of me wants to be like, well, what the fuck is going on with him? And like, you know, yes, he's a murderer, and like, what's in his head that really makes this a viable option? Like, where is he coming from?
I think there's a sense of belonging that like people as humans want, and that they are getting from like my personal trainer in Palm Springs is like a flat earther. And I'm like, how is this also like, how am I taking exercise advice from someone who thinks that the earth is flat? Like,
I'm like, oh, be careful.
Someone who's rejected science entirely. But there's a documentary, a great flat earth documentary on Netflix, and you see these people who feel it's almost like a fraternity, like a sense of belonging by this like this shared belief set that they have. And so like asking them to reject that is asking them to like step outside this community that they feel so connected to. Not an excuse, but I think that's part of why it's like, what are they getting from this? I think it's a sense of belonging. Like they feel like they're part of this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to create like a space to like address really root problems for everybody and to like to change things at a massive level. It's just like, it doesn't have to keep being peeled back and back and back to where people are stripped to in finding like a fundamental universal connection with each other rather than difference. I don't know. Leo Rising? pass the ball to you.
It's interesting because the argument with the flat earth folks comes from meditative states that usually they get guided into or guided through, and they're so trusting of the voice and the frequency and the energy that is commanding that meditative space, that trance journey, trance with a C, trance journey, that it builds a new narrative for them because they feel that somewhere in the shared experience they want to be othered and they don't feel othered. They are the people who are into those type of belief systems. When it's okay. I said it earlier today on a Instagram live because I wanted something for my audience and I wanted to connect, and I was channeling. Like I had a moment where I was just very psychic and I needed to just send a message, but I also needed something. And part of my homework is the asking. So as I'm going through the channel, what came up was the topic of Kyle. I just did really quick research and I want to retract the mom thing.
He's the 17-year-old.
Yeah. He could be a flat earther. We don't know. I'm kidding. But I want to retract the mom thing. It's that there's a lot of moving factors in building how he even got to that location.
Yeah.
But you take a teenager like that and he's othered, he's bullied, he's going through things, and you introduce him to a collective, albeit a cult. So cults are just groups of people that agree if we believe this way, an outcome will come in our favor. If we routine this way, results will come in this favor. The moment you control someone's food, you control someone's entertainment, and you control their bedtime, you're in a cult. And you just kind of just have to accept with it like a soft graze of like, that's cultish thing, and that's it. Consciousness is beyond our articulation. However, the experience of our personal consciousness is within, without, and beyond our articulation. So all we're going to do is emit how we believe we need to emit. We're always going to be opposing to someone, and opposition is not a horrible thing. Opposition is meant for us to eventually come to a conclusion and to build something from that, to create. Yeah. Davey's shadow on his face that some of you can't see, so you have to go to YouTube, and I want you to engage a little bit more on the YouTube, people. You'll see a shadow cast on his face right now. That's considered a composite. It needs an opposite to exist. It accents his nose. It accents his thinking. Someone like me is going to take that and be like, time of day, what's going on with him? Oh, I can do this auric manipulation and lighten the screen. You know what I mean? Finn's, your screen's a little flat. That doesn't mean that you can't converse or converge with Davey just because he's in a scenario where the lighting's different. And I don't know if people look at their real world that way and see pigments and see cultures and see architecture and just go, oh, just because the lighting's a little different over here doesn't mean I don't belong to be over there.
No.
Just because the way I experience the world's a little different doesn't mean I can't figure out how it can merge and converge with someone else so that we could agree, but not agree to make someone a cult member. And everybody that we probably were all educated by is too busy doing that instead of just letting. I don't like to agree to disagree. I like to agree. I want to be able to understand you, and I want to be able to understand why your cosmology works for you. And I want to feel safe if I come visit. I don't want to feel like I have to like gut myself out to be in your club. And that's where this violence is rooted from for my wacky little brain.
It has me thinking about, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, just to wrap up this conversation, I know we should know we have other things to chat about.
That was great.
No, I'm sincere in this, that I really want to thank our audience for like being with us on this journey, because I know that like a lot of you come here for sex, you know, and like I would say, but these issues around race and racism and safety, it's all connected to sex. Totally. They express themselves constantly, and
this is the sex.
It is, yeah. And we can't pretend that nothing is happening. So so we appreciate you all being there on this journey with us. I do want to talk about Jerry Falwell Jr. because it is just too
rich.
It's too juicy. Yeah. Okay, so I'll admit I'm not like following the story too closely. My synopsis, maybe one of you guys could do a better job than me, but it's basically that he's this anti-gay, anti-everything, anti-fun evangelist that I think he's president of, is it Liberty College or Liberty
University? Yeah,
former president, which is like a very conservative school. And he's one of those like marriages, one man, one woman, biblical, blah, blah, blah people. So it turns out he was getting freaky whilst watching his wife get fucked by the pool boy. I mean, that is the gist of it, right? Like,
yeah, let's just sum it up in one sentence. Person with really acute identities acting out of identity, and there's a big scandal, and now the truth is revealed. How many times have we read this story?
Right.
Insert person, gender doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Priest in the bathroom tapping his feet, senator, whatever. It doesn't. Yeah. First of all, senators like in the cruising.
No, the priest. Who was the priest? Was that a scandal?
Myriad.
Like every priest, 90% of priests. I don't know. First of all, I think the pool boy is hot. And have you seen pictures of him?
He's cute.
Yeah. In like a chocolate chip cookie kind of way. Like, it's like
there's no chocolate in that boy.
Okay, not what I meant. I more meant like
like a white donut from a gas station.
Okay, it wasn't a racial. I just meant he's
powdered
not
sugar.
He's not particularly like interesting, but it's going to be good. That's how I feel about chocolate chip cookies. Like, okay, it's just chocolate. It's not that interesting, but it's going to taste good. That's how I feel about
oatmeal cookies.
Oh, I mean, that's a little bit more interesting to me. Can someone please explain to me what like a pool boy's job is? Like literally, like is his job
to seduce the mighty into the fall?
Is that like really just like do people actually have pool boys for the purpose? Like I have a
pool boy.
Yeah, but he doesn't live with you, Finn. He comes like twice a week for 15 minutes.
He didn't live with them.
No.
He didn't live with them a lot. No, I mean like he got a lot out of them. They built a slow relationship. He was kept.
Okay. In my mind, like I don't like I have a pool man that comes to my house in Palm Springs for like 10 minutes and skims the pool. Like what is this? And he certainly doesn't look like this chocolate chip cookie.
It's a total intersection of like fantasy and reality in the built environment. Like he's getting to play in fantasy and in reality with these people. And
did he actually clean their pool ever though? Like,
I don't know.
No,
he's triangulating something.
I think it was like a residence pool because he wasn't cleaning their pool.
Okay.
I think he was like a glorified lifeguard or something.
Right, that's a whole nother fantasy.
And they took interest in him because he's handsome. They met him when he was 20. Leo Rising loves the tea. They met him when he was 20. And
spill it.
The wife, he ends up the way I want to get this chap's name, but the way he describes their experience, because the last thing I read was that he told them he was going to kamikaze on them after they had a really long legal battle or a frustrating legal battle. So they've invested in his college. They've invested in his business. He has a master's degree in real estate development from Georgetown University. Like he's a follow through person. And I think it's okay to build friendships that have personal intimacies that aren't for everyone. But when you build those friendships and you build those relationships, I don't think it's okay if you're casting out to the rest of the world that everybody else can't do it and that it should be illegal. Right. And like, there's nothing wrong with what those three adults chose to do, even though sometimes they're using grooming language, which makes me very uncomfortable because he's 20. And some men's minds aren't developed really until like the organ of their brain and the relationship to their body doesn't really hit till 24, allegedly science. I don't feel comfortable with the G word given Pizzagate combos like that. I also am not comfortable with. So I didn't like that, but I am pretty clear that they were allies in his early adult development and they all went into business together. They have paperwork. And all of their names are on legit real estate. So I think in a way, they did groom his path to help him with business as long as he was sleeping with Becky. And for God's sake, her name is actually Becky.
No, it's not.
Her name is Becky with an I.
Oh my God, that's so
Becky
funny.
with an I.
I don't care if someone enjoys watching their wife get fucked. If I had a boyfriend, I would love watching him get fucked. Like, I think that's hot. But I do care about the hypocrisy of it. Like this approach that you can't do this, you can't jerk off, you can't fantasize in your mind, you can't touch other men, you can't do this. It doesn't work. Like denying your sexuality is not healthy. And what is healthy, what does work is the hard work of actually integrating these things. And it's the part that bugs me is that integration is made harder because of people like Jerry Falwell Jr., who themselves aren't following it either. So he's It's a very Handmaid's Tale, Fred Waterford. I don't know if you guys watch Handmaid's Tale. Finn, I recommended it to you. Have you started?
I
it
know
yet?
I haven't seen it yet. I've been like
Yeah.
binging on 6 Feet Under again.
Yeah, he's like the commander of this horrible like anti-woman society, and yet
Oh,
like
Jesus.
he allows like his girl to read, even though the other women aren't allowed. And I'm just like, it's just so icky and gross, and that's how
I don't
feel
like
about it.
Handmaid's Tale because it seems to lack diversity. Like their
Mm.
first 2 seasons had 2 people of color, and the story they're telling is very similar to the story of my actual ancestors. Not like the ones I pray to and like candles to. I mean like people who have like American record. So I didn't really get it. It's really weird.
There is a really uncomfortable racial element to it, and when they do
Yeah.
start introducing characters of color, it's always like in ways that they sacrifice themselves for the main character who's white.
Completely.
It's real when you watch it, you're like, oh, did they like think this through?
Well, yeah, someone has to write it, so it's thought about.
Like, did this come up in the writing room? Yeah. So, what else do we want to? Finn, I know you had a lot of thoughts about cucking.
I love that word.
Well, I just love also how he like asks leading questions. I mean, but what do you mean? Like, can you specifically? I love cuckold
Well, you
fantasies
sent a whole
myself.
article about cuck.
Oh, David Lay. Yeah, David Lay is really awesome. Like writes a lot about like misperceptions in like fantasy and male sexuality specifically, and cuckold fantasies, especially in like the heterosexual world. It's like there's like a whole gendered thing going on around like distribution of power. But in gay relationships, I'm more interested in gay relationships because I relate to them personally and can understand like it's like a way of like adding, for me, like control to a dynamic that is potentially uncontrollable and kind of scary. So then it brings in a dynamic of like, oh, I've got my hand on the wheel. I'm holding this and guiding this car towards this like treacherous terrain. So it's fun. But David Lay writes an interesting article about that in Psychology Today. I sent that to you.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I clicked it though.
Oh, I clicked.
I don't think you sent it to me. I only got the People magazine.
No, I did. No, I did not send you People magazine.
I know you did.
That was me. That was
I'm
me.
like, that's Davey.
Those are good days with me and my mom. People magazine. Let me tell you.
Someday, I'm gonna hold all the receipts of our group conversations.
Oh, yeah.
They're very innocent. What receipt? What are you holding?
Well, this thing around cuckolding, right? So like power distribution, it's like it's someone triangulating like a kind of power dynamic, and we're putting somebody like a certain set of attributes or power into this other person's hands. Like even in the Falwell situation, it's like, oh, this other and what they embody and what I'm going to project onto them and they're bringing in. And I think there's just like, it's a kind of way of divvying up power in a different way in relationships. And especially when there's like a lot of fear in the relationship dynamic, it can be a way to exonerate that and celebrate it in a way that's fun and super kinky.
I love
Super
how you
hot.
just explain that. I love
Thanks.
that. I think.
Do you know that like statistically, like Republicans and people who identify religiously have a higher incidence of cuckold fantasies, same-sex fantasies, like a variety of kink? It's just because it's like a projected other out there and it's like wanting to be rectified. It's the erotic, like wanting to course correct this like really extreme and austere identity in the world that isn't really real. It's constructed. So
is it that people who, I guess it's like a chicken or egg question. So people who are in these like conservative identities, is it because they're part of something that says you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, that they develop these cravings to do all those things? Or is it that people that are trying to repress that in themselves are especially
seek the church?
Yeah.
That's awesome, because that's
it's both. It's both and it's like a mix. It's like kind of an overlap for some people. And that's totally the question that Justin Lemiller asks in a lot of his research. And tell me what you want. Is are they choosing environments to like create and contain and restrict what they are really wrestling within themselves, or is it also like gaining momentum because of a lot of it, like suppression and stigmatizing something doesn't work, it makes it worse?
Didn't we talk about that last week? I said like if I tell you not to think of a white polar bear, what do you think of?
Yeah, you can't help it.
A white polar bear. Yeah. I do have some housekeeping news. I just uploaded a YouTube video called "Gay Porn Stars Try Sex Positions." It's actually really funny. It's a cute
Imagine
video.
that.
Yeah, a little levity. It's just like, okay, try the like backwards clam, and then they have to figure out what that means. And then
Is that a position?
No, that wasn't one of them. But
You should make one though.
The reverse wheelbarrow was one of them. Oh, Finn's puppy just made an appearance.
Hi. She's
so cute.
She's been following me around lately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting a little codependent during COVID.
Totally.
In other news, there's also a new Himeros.tv trailer. You can go to Himeros.tv to see it. It's 2 minutes and 40 seconds long. It's delicious. Leo Rising, your man Will Tantra narrates it.
It's beautiful. It's really well done.
In a very sexy voice.
Yeah.
People are tired of porn.
I
People
love his voice.
Different. It's so good. It's so good.
I have a little love affair with Will Tantra's voice.
Yeah. Yeah. He listens to the podcast, and every week we give him a shout out. So
he's quite lovely.
Thank you, Will.
I used to have a phone sex buddy that I had sex with for on the phone for years. I don't remember maybe 6 to 8 years. And a lot of it was his voice. I really enjoyed his voice, but I really feel like if I were to do it all over again, it would be with Will. Just putting that out there.
Did you guys watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Okay.
I always like culting things in the snow, like a cult. Oh, I said occult, y'all, not occult, I put it I like I love that feeling. It just I loved it. I love nature. I don't think I've seen a compilation like that since I've typed in when I was I should not have been typing that in, right? And I was like, compilation. I spelled compilation wrong. Hopefully it works. Dial up. It was just oh, look at that.
There's a lot of cum.
Who's the cinematographer? We need to talk about them so they can get even more jobs, because I love your team.
Yeah,
I love your editor. I love your cinematographer. I love them.
A lot of different cinematographers in it. I would say Matt Lynn probably is the cinematographer for most of the shots. A lot of them, Ed shot. He's another director that we work with.
Ed?
He's a director that lives in Amsterdam, and a lot of the stuff that we film overseas, we work with him on. It's funny though, because I sent this to our email list on Wednesday, and almost all the responses were like, "Oh my god, this trailer is amazing! Really enjoyed it. Love seeing all these different guys." We heavily, at least more heavily than previous trailers, we leaned on featuring everyday guys in addition to the porn stars. So you still see the Blake Mitchells and the Diego Sands of the world, but also kind of more everyday men. And of course, even though most people really like that, there were some bitter queens that had a few things to say. And I was just are we still here? Is this still the conversation? Have you not unsubscribed from this list by now? How much are you going through in your life that you need to take time to email me and express concern for the men in the videos not being hot enough or having, enough chiseled abs, or if you need every video to have a 9-inch dick and an 8-pack, then go to SeanCody.com. They'll happily take your money. But I don't know. I just can't.
Yeah,
and go to the root of your issue.
Yeah,
I wish the podcasters could just see my face, because I it's such a pointless redirection of frustration. I'm pretty sure those people emailing you aren't even paying members to your programming. They just happen to have forgotten to fucking unsubscribe, and I'm going to use the F word because it's the energy attached to it is they would love it if they could just ruin the day. But it's what you're really upset about is when you masturbate, it takes you 4 minutes to finish, or maybe you can't even experience the arousal aspect of your body. And like Finn said, go to the root of your issue, because directing it at creatives is self-destructive. Would you put up your favorite pop singer and complain about song number 6? Would you really? Would you want the wrath of the pop singer choosing that day to let you know what they went through in the studio to complete song number 6?
Well, when I see someone email me that says the guys are not hot enough, what I actually see is someone saying I'm not hot enough.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I can't feel my own eroticism. I have to have this particular object in this order or I'm fucked.
Not fucked.
Anti-fucked.
Yeah.
I'm the inverse of fucked.
We actually just finished a membership survey. Maybe we'll discuss this next week on the podcast. Ryan's still going through all the results from it. But one of the findings that really stood out to me is that 61% of our audience, these are Himeros TV members that responded, 61% of our audience wants to see men over the age of 50 in erotic videos. And that number is significantly higher than when we asked the same question last year. So I don't know if it's that, again, chicken or egg. I don't know if it's that like things are actually shifting in the world, which it feels like they kind of are, or if it's that we're actually attracting like a more evolved audience. Could be both, probably both.
I hope so. I mean, do people really, do we know like real data on that, like in a generalized way? You do?
Like, what do you mean real data?
Well, it's like, I mean, like all encompassing, like, I'm curious about that. Like, is that like, you know, like people searching for youth, and or is that like specific pockets of the gay community, or is that like universal? Like
this 61% is Himeros TV members.
Okay.
So it's
already a self-selecting crowd potentially.
It's already a self-selecting crowd. Yeah. And I think even if I were to pose the question to my like YouTube audience, which would be a lot broader, it's still a little bit of a self-selecting crowd. Like it's going to be people that are attracted to the themes that we're discussing. But I can say this, like, I don't know. I generally date guys that are younger than myself. And yet I still want to see men over the age of 50 in porn. Like it's still hot for me. It's still fun. I enjoy seeing different bodies. I enjoy the variety. I really love when it's like a younger guy and an older guy. So
you know what? Oh, sorry. You go.
I'm just excited about that result.
I like it if I see a young guy being honest, which is kind of like in general. I'm going to say I'm being generalizing here, a little lost, finding my way, kind of having fun, but not really sure fully, putting on some like, you know, big boy attitudes, but also feeling like a little silly because I'm not quite landing because I'm not really sure who I am just yet. And then I see like this. It's great. The reason I love seeing older guys be erotic is they've spent time in the world. They've really found a lot more about themselves potentially. And when they show that, and when they actually, that's what's so sexy. It's like, look at it, the presence behind it, you know, like, so for me, like a young guy with a young body, it's like, oh, what a beautiful body. But like, how does he use it? How is he in his body? It's often, you know, like, oh, well, just, you know, you'll find your way. You're gonna.
I'll tell you, after we filmed Around the Fire, which is a circle jerk video that featured porn stars with everyday men. A lot of those guys, I think, were in their 60s, 50s, 60s. The sexual ecstasy and expression on the older men blew the porn. It was like the porn stars were like cardboard cutouts. It just like blew.
They were scared.
Yeah, they were like, what is the sexuality? After filming that, I too was feeling a lot of like what Finn is expressing of like, oh my God, like we need to get more. Like I went on this kick of wanting to like interview every older gay person for my YouTube channel to talk about their experience of sex. And what I quickly found is that, yes, that is true, that some of them have had this incredible sexual journey and are really like expressive and comfortable in their skin. But then there's also a lot of older guys who are still sexually adolescent who haven't taken the first, like their experience of sex was like, well, I can't get hard anymore. And I was like, okay, but like, what else? That was it.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is watch the trailer. And if you are inspired by what you see and want to be part of something that's different, himeros.tv/special, you can get 3 months for $49.95 for a few more days. All right, let's talk about this week's video, which is called Surrender to Pleasure. It features Chris Harder, Wesley Woods, and Wyndham Gold. It opens with Chris sharing a story about having sex with two twins. Well, I guess one twin. Well, a set of twins.
Yeah.
Is that the, yeah.
A pod.
Which I'm here.
I'm just kidding.
However you slice it. No.
No. It's just thinking like peas in a little shell that you pop out. They're in the same shell. But
then wouldn't that be 4 bodies?
Like a quadruplets. That's the one I haven't seen. Either way, I'm here for it. And then when Wyndham starts like lamenting about not being able to have to surrender in sex, Chris and Wesley are like, hey, like we're here to like we'll help you out. So they tie Wyndham to a table, blindfold him, and then they use I mean, girl, they use feathers, oil.
They found everything.
Did Jason write this video?
Kitchen sink. Yeah, Jason Thompson wrote this. Yeah. I mean, a girl, I'm like, what are they going to pull out fucking next?
It's like a cat. They're like rubbing a cat on it.
I would have loved if they rubbed a cat because they found everything.
And they're stimulating, I mean, literally like stimulating his body from head to toe. And he's shaking at points, like really like he's in it, he's surrendering. They jerk him off. They make him come at the end of it. It's lovely. So what did you guys think of the video? What jumped out at you? Leo Rising, I'd love to start with you.
I learned so much.
Tell us.
I know that sounded really inauthentic. No, I learned a lot about my body in that video because I was so calm. It could be because you have me watching the most porn I've probably ever watched willingly in my life. Like usually it was like, when I say willingly, I mean like no shame. I'm in this. I'm like, yeah, this is a really great art direction. Like who brought that desk? Where did that come from? Like I'm looking at everything. I loved the opening scene so much for friendship that I almost didn't remember where it needed to go. Because I was like, oh, they're really being there for their friend right now. Like, this is great. And the first, what is it? I think it's like 21 minutes, 22 minutes. So I think it ends with a 9. It's long, photographic memory. I really appreciated the tickling and the subtlety and the prolonged, what like someone might call foreplay.
Yeah.
I appreciated the uplift of each act because it meant that sex with someone, or the initial query was, I don't think I could ever trust anyone that much. And so they spent more than half of the 22 minutes just with a blindfold teaching him that he can trust them with touch. And they didn't jump to suck. They didn't jump to nibble. They literally used the objects that he had seen. So the whole environment came in as touch, and the whole environment came in as scent, and the whole environment came in as temperature. And I was like, wow, if men really took that time with each other and played, it was so sweet. And then when they finally had sex, like I was like, me personally, I was like, nah, you could have just tickled him to the last minute. Like I would have been, if all of a sudden he got tossed over with like a strawberry milkshake, I would have just laughed, and that could have been the cum. Like, you know, like I was like, I don't know if I needed all of that. I loved what it was doing.
Well, and there wasn't fucking. Like
no fucking.
That was one of the things I liked about this. I mean, it did kind of culminate in some, I guess there was a little bit of sucking and a hand job. Yeah. I think at one point Wyndham was sucking some Wesley's dick, but like it was a very different expression of sex, and that felt really, really nice to see. I didn't leave the video thinking, well, God, I wish they fucked, you know, like, which is kind of the common kind of conception that people have about.
I think it's abusive and people need to get over it.
They do. And this video makes that a lot easier. Finn, what did you think of it?
Well, I really love it actually because, one thing that's been coming for me in my own process, which I found reflected in this video, is just like being more relaxed about it. Like they're just, I like that they're friends, and they're like, you know, because we attach so much meaning to sex. I do too. And there are certain things that I wouldn't want to do with just anybody. But like this idea of just like, oh, sexual pleasure, it challenges the notion of what sex is, you know, and like friends at a table and be like, well, yeah, let's just play with each other. Like it doesn't mean like it has to be some sort of major like transference, counter-transference event. And like, what does this mean about us romantically or even as sexual beings? It's just like buddies like connecting with each other in a way that we all really like. Like I enjoy the idea of like, oh, I just want to jack off with my friend, not because I really want to like do him, but just like because I want to share this intimate part of me with a friend and it'd be like normal and fine and, you know, celebrated in a way that was never allowed. So I saw that in there and I thought that was super cool. I love Chris Harder. He's a sweetheart. Like, Chris
and Wesley have this really good connection.
Yeah.
They were the two guys that were doing the touching for Wyndham, who was on the table. And there were several instances in the video where they captured these like pervy glances between like Chris and Wesley. Like they're these two like pervy uncles who are like like
big brothers.
Yeah, like they're kind of like mischievous a little bit and like in on it. There's another video that we filmed with them called Worship Me. And that's to this day when people ask like, oh, like, well, what is this that you do and how is it different? That's the video that I show them. And it's where Wesley's like moved to tears by Chris affirming him. It's a really, really powerful video.
It's in the trailer.
That moment of like the tear coming down is in the trailer. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's also this idea around trust, right? Like, I think it's really important because in Leo Rising touched on this, but like there's like this, you know, like in Tantra, for instance, specifically in the Tantra teachings, like this idea of active receptivity and the experience of trust is something that one does internally. And we have this like subject object thing about like, I can't trust you, or I don't trust you, or you, like, versus like I am having a hard time trusting. And what is that in an embodied sense? How does that show up like in my body with like resistance? And it's an active job on the inside to let down armor and guard. And so like he's on this table blindfolded and having all these different sensations, not knowing what's coming next between like sharp sensations and like pleasurable sensations. And eventually you just have to, if you want to go with it, be like, I'm just going to fucking give in. I don't know what's going to happen or who's doing it. And that's an internal event. I think when guys have that experience in a workshop or something, it's like a light bulb, like, oh, this is me that decides when to give in and when not.
Wow. That's really powerful. I think that moment probably would have happened for me when the punching started. There's a lot of like chest punching and Wyndham is blindfolded. So he doesn't know that this punch is going to happen. And there's not like a light punch. It's just like a punch on his chest and then another punch. And they're kind of spaced out like in ways that you can't really anticipate when it's going to happen. If there was a rhythm, if it was like punch, 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 like, you know, to anticipate it, right? Like that's what they say about spanking. Like you can set a rhythm so the guy knows when the next slap is coming. This was not following a certain beat. And I think that's when I would have just had to been like, okay, like, yep, the surrender's happening. This is it. And I also really liked that for the vast majority of this video, no one was hard. Like Wyndham was definitely ecstatic and pleasure was happening. And that's something that is so hard for us to get with porn stars is they always want to be hard on camera. They always want to be hard on camera. And they get a lot of feedback about if they're not hard, that they're not enjoying the scene. And there's this whole narrative, there's this whole construct around erections. So I get really excited when we can show soft dicks experiencing pleasure and for the audience to still enjoy it, which I think this kind of hit that intersection.
I think soft dick is so healthy, especially for right now. For right now, just men don't need to be hard everywhere, especially not their most intimate spot. This is not what the state of the world is really asking of us on a cellular level or a celestial level. And so if like we want like the men like the Pharaoh family and all of their extensions and allies to take a beat and really accept themselves, it would be about softening down there and letting there be a flow everywhere else, because men don't have what women have, you know, like they don't. Well, what the vagina can do is it like teaches the feminine embodied flow, and so they know that sensation very much, and the male body knows it when we're peeing or when we're like fountaining out, right? We're coming. We don't really know flow.
We're actually next summer we're filming a series with a former priest. Finn is so jealous that we're not doing this series with him.
Yeah, what kind of power play was that?
Yeah, and I like to rub it in your face too.
Just like
priest, like a real
drama
like a
between me and Davey.
He's a retired Catholic priest, or a former Catholic priest. He left the church, but one of the videos that we're going to film it in Vermont, and one of the videos that we are discussing has a, what do you call it? A cock cuddling scene, just like a soft cock cuddling moment. And initially it was kind of proposed as like that was going to be the whole scene. And I was like, okay, like I'm here for that, but is there enough kind of, I don't know if that's going to be enough to satisfy the audience. So what we're going to do is film a sex scene before that. And then the second half of the video will be the cock cuddling. So if you need like the calm and the boners, you'll get that. and then you can be introduced to this idea that might be new or different for you, and you won't send me an email saying you didn't get your money's worth with that video.
Wow, I would hope.
Hope all you want, but I'll also look at the email.
No. Davey's gonna put me in charge of his emails for 2 weeks on a random day, and all of you are gonna really regret it. So watch now. No, what I was gonna say is I would hope that by the time that occurs, you like what you offered was great, and having variety is great. But I hope by the time that occurs, more people slowly open up to it. Like how you just share that is so intimate from your creative process, and it's so well considered. I hope that more people can. More men who are watching this, and women, if you're watching this, let us know, right?
Yeah, it's tough. There's just a lot of boxes you have to check with each video, and in just a certain way that you kind of have to sneak things in.
It's like they don't know that half of your staff are actual therapists and coaches. Like I don't.
Right. Like, well, so here's also what's encouraging. The comments for this video were really positive.
Oh my God, yeah.
Jerry R. said, kudos, this is a home run. I loved every minute of it. I've experienced this as both a giver and receiver, and the depth of feeling is authentic and real. Thanks to everyone who worked on this production. Great job. One of my favorites. Eric 3R Sale says, giving or receiving, I would happily trade places with any of these three in this setting and situation. My body was tingling just watching this and imagining these sensations. Beautiful. And then Older Gray Bear says, wow, I'm 73. My first M2M experience was at 50. In the last 23 years, I have never had an experience like this one. My loss. This video was erotic, beautiful, full of love, and how much I wanted to be on that table. Keep up the wonderful work, Davey. Hugs to you and your fellow Himeros group of talented men. And I think like a lot of people don't know an experience like this exists. So it takes seeing something like this to be able to invite it into your life and be like, oh, I want that. And maybe my next hookup, I'm going to do something that's a little bit outside the box, or I'm going to bring a couple friends together and we're going to try this and do like a little pleasure party for an afternoon.
Yes.
So anyway, well, let's answer one quick question. We have 3 questions this week. I'll ask one of the short ones. All right. If you guys have any questions, send them to Davey at daveywavey.tv or call 612-470-5729. Let's jump down to the last one. Okay. Do all you guys talk about your work with your family? What do they think of what you do? Is it awkward and uncomfortable? I'm curious, actually. Leo Rising, does your family know that you do like this podcast and are working with us?
Some do.
Yeah.
I mean, family is who's familial. And if you pay attention, all of my family's on all my social media. And so I'm pretty sure they swipe up whenever there's a demand to swipe up. Like they're aware. I think there's no conversation on it because I was transparent at the top of when I joined your podcast, like when I started hanging out with y'all. And there's no conversation about it, probably because I'm not a performer. Like they don't feel they need to talk. Right. But I also I think my family has had an experience with me that has been educational and has given them space for a lot of my cousins at the moment, I'm the safe space for them to talk about things that they need to talk about with their sexuality because I don't have any judgment. And so the hope is like Caribbean people talk, like we talk, you know what I mean? And then other family members, like I've always been a safe space for my family. And I'm pretty sure in navigating the journey of supporting your out cousin, I've always been out for whatever I am. It hasn't been an issue for me, but it's not lost on me that for some people, it's an issue for them to have any sort of fetish, erotic desire, cookies and bookmark life like that. There's a lot of shame for a lot of people, and there's not a lot of sexuality shame in my family. I'm very lucky for that.
Is it chocolate chip cookies?
Double chocolate chip, no nuts.
Oh, okay.
No nuts ever. No Jesus. Oh.
Finn, how much of your family knows what you do?
Well, they all know what I do. What were you gonna say? Wait.
Mm-mm.
No, no nuts. Okay. They know what I do. So like we know this. My dad and I don't really talk. And interesting, I saw him at my brother's wedding last year, and he was like asking me about my work, and I had that kind of like kind of feeling in me of like, oh well, my dad's gonna like judge me, and it was an interesting experience to be like, wow, I'm 40 and I'm kind of scared of my dad. But my mom, like they're not together. My mom is really supportive of me. She doesn't really want to hear about it a lot. It's kind of like, oh, and she's told me so many times how proud she is of me and all the work that I'm doing, but she doesn't really want to talk about it. My brother and sister are super cool. We talk about a lot and most everything. So, but other than that, I don't really have a lot of family left in my court, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom and dad who Finn has met. My mom's my bookkeeper. My mom like does my books, so she's like all in. They don't watch what I do unless I send them something, which is often YouTube content. But even then, it's like pretty sporadic. And I find ways to talk about it that don't like violate their comfort level or their boundaries, because there are ways. And my mom will be like, "Oh, like what's going on at work?" And I'll kind of give her the synopsis of the projects that we're doing, or talk about like the anti-racism work. I've also been making YouTube videos for 13 years and talking about sex. So they've had plenty of time to kind of come on the train.
Get your drift.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we'll save the other questions for next week. Feel free to call us and all of that. Next week, we're going to be discussing baptisma. Finn?
Yeah.
We're going to get more of you.
FinnDeerhart.com, FINNDERHART.com, which is going to be totally new and updated in about a month. Amazing.
Is there like an exciting new logo and all that?
Oh my God, it's amazing. Yes, and programs. Huh?
New programs and portraits?
Programs and a logo. Yeah, new logo.
And portraits. They'll be
yeah, and portraits.
Hot new pictures.
Finn's hot, y'all. Finn's hot.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah. She is on fire. Leah Rising, where can people get more of you?
Their dreams.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Leah Rising Yoga. That's about it for now.
And remember, you guys can you can join Himeros.tv and get 3 months for just $49.95 at Himeros.tv/special for just a few more days. So act now or forever hold your peace. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, more to come.